Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Okay, you ready for this, Matthew?
I'm ready for this.
So Matthew Robinson, everyone, and I think best you tell me more about yourself, what you get up to and what you do, or you tell our listeners anyway.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a hypnotherapist, not to be confused with a hypnotist or a stage hypnotist. So the difference is, one can make you bark like a dog. And
Yeah.
So I help people with the fights of life, weight loss, stop smoking, personal development coaching, sports motivation,
And
sales acceleration,
and stop vaping.
and stop
recently,
vaping. Stop vaping. I call that one mind over vape.
Right. I'm definitely going to tap you up for that one.
Yeah, you should, because at the end of the treatment, you will walk away a non-vapor.
Really? Cool. I need that one. Anyone that knows me knows I always have my vape attached to my face. I look forward to it, and we'll delve into that a bit more deeply. So does the business have a name, a brand name, or are there lots of brands?
Yeah, so I've just recently pivoted to Combat Hypnosis.
And is that the fighting side of it?
Well, everybody's fighting a fight, a quiet battle that you know nothing about. So it's kind of based on the fights of life, all those feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, sensations, or beliefs that have been holding you back, these past few days, these past few weeks, these past few months, these past few years. So I help people to sort of work through whatever it is that's holding them back, working through all that emotion, that hurt, pain, guilt, shame, anger, frustration, so that they can release it. And then they can then refocus on their life, because things hold you back. Those things are subconscious.
I know from previous conversations we've had, I know you have in the past used your powers or used your skills, if you like, to help with sales. Was it your email address was Mr. Sales or something was Mr. Sales?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an old one or what.
Yeah, but, Mr. Salesman.
But, is there a background there? Is there?
Gotcha, yeah. So I've always said, because I've got a big background in sales, and where do I start? 16 years old, knocking doors 6 days a week from 9 in the morning till 9 at night for Zenith Windows.
Do you remember them? Yeah. Double glazed salesman.
Yeah. And my sales manager at the time, he was this big guy, big, steroids, big sales dude, and if you didn't get those sales, you would be pinned up against the wall. And on the odd occasion, if you didn't make that sale, he would put his fist through the wall, and there were holes all over the boardroom. So, that's the negative side of selling. Back in the day,
and managing people, because that's the way it used to be.
With fear.
Yeah. And shouting and
shouting, and the Telcam team was downstairs, and everybody had a phone book, and you'd just go through the phone book calling people one by one. Of course, you can't do that now. And but that was how it was back in the day, and that's where I learnt my trade. I've made a successful living out of sales for near on 30 years, and I've always said that the day that I become a full-time hypnotherapist is the day that I quit sales. But as I've become a better salesperson, I've become a better hypnotherapist, and vice versa. So I've just got better at sales. So but sales is very similar to hypnosis, hypnotherapy, in the sense that you're working with the person in front of you. You're building rapport, not for any manipulative outcome.
You've got an outcome in mind, haven't you? You're walking towards an outcome. You're trying to
add value to people's lives, because sales can be quite a dirty word these days, and people have a lot of negative beliefs, limiting beliefs around sales. When in actual fact, sales is a wonderful career for anybody to have if you're passionate and you've got value to add. Then you're speaking with passion, and then you've got the right to perhaps ask for business at the end of that, you know. So there's nothing wrong with sales. It's got a negative side like most things, but the positive side, you know, it's one of the most highly paid professions in the world.
Yeah, it's a careful balance, isn't it? When you, if for example you're trying to teach a staff member how to sell, it's just the wording is all wrong, isn't it? You know, you're not selling. You're actually, in most cases, helping them out, either be it saving them money, improving their productivity, you know, whatever it is you're trying to sell. You've got to reframe it almost to be, at least mentally, you're trying to help this person out. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to offer them a better product or service than they've currently got.
That's right. Everybody's selling something. You know, maybe you're selling yourself, you're selling your business, your products, your services, your wares, whatever that is. And, you know, true selling is adding value to the other person, and, you know, finding out, you know, what's important to them, and helping them to service, you know, their needs and their preferences. So, you know, I mean, in terms of what I do now, I never take money off of people unless I know that they're ready to change in terms of the hypnotherapy, you know, because it's about the skill set, but it's also about, is that person at that threshold, is that person at that point where they're ready to make a change in their life? Because then all you've got to do is just sort of push them a little bit. So a lot of what I do is kind of placebo. So the person's got to be ready to make that change.
I get it.
In the same way, that person's got to be receptible to, you know, to be sold to, and not everybody's, you know, going to be receptive. And a lot of youngsters today give the profession, and no offense to any youngsters listening, it's just that you have to learn the sales process, and we all get a little bit desperate from time to time, and there's nothing worse than a desperate salesperson, because it stinks like a, you know,
Yeah, you can tell it a mile off. Yeah,
a terrible aftershave.
Yeah.
So it can be seen as quite an unhealthy profession unless you know how to sell in a healthy way, because sales can be very demanding. And that was my first belief, my first experience, that, you know, nothing matters but the goal and the mission to get that sale.
Yeah.
You know, it's life and death. And the truth is, it's not true at all. You know, sales is almost like an art. It can be seen as a science, but essentially it's just, you know, a transference of enthusiasm. Another way of looking at it as well. So I love sales. You know, I'm a professional salesperson, whether I'm selling my hypnotherapy or I'm selling various products. I've pretty much sold everything in my life, apart from houses. I've never sold a house, but I've sold most things.
They're perhaps the worst for it, aren't they? Estate agents, or, you know, they're the epitome of the salesman, aren't they?
Well, the bigger the sale, the bigger the reward.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't come much bigger than that, does it? I mean, I've sold solar panels and batteries, heating systems, car. You know, have you ever sold your own car?
Yeah, frequently. Yeah, I used to dabble with just privately buying cars and selling them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, again, it's not something that everybody's done, but the process is the same.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you're selling, whether it's a big thing or a small thing.
So, Combat Hypnosis, is it, or Combat? What was it? Sorry, the business.
Combat Hypnosis.
Yeah, Combat Hypnosis. So, how are you sort of packaging that up at the moment, and who you're targeting, and who you working with?
Well, it's essentially a sort of fancy name that I've got from my experience working in combat sports with professional fighters, and also working with other professionals in the field. There seemed to be a theme that I noticed, which was the fights of life. You know, we're all fighting a battle, you know, whether it's stop smoking, whether it's stop vaping, whether it's stop drinking, stop taking drugs. They're all things that I can help with, not just that, anxiety, confidence, sports, personal development, and mental health is a big thing at the moment. You know, everybody's under a lot of pressure. Cost of living crisis, you know, NHS wait times, everybody's fighting a battle. And if you imagine that we're almost like pressure cookers, and sometimes if you don't let off a little bit of steam, then that pressure cooker can explode. So that's kind of what I do. I help people to relieve the pressure in their life so that they can chill out a little bit. Because, and I can speak for myself, you know, I've lived many, many years in fight and flight, in emergency, because I thought it was normal. You know, I thought it was normal to live like that because I had to make a living, you know, and you get burnt out.
Yeah.
You know, you get burnt out, you get worn down, you know, things start going wrong. If you can slow the pace of your life down and release a little bit of that pressure, then you can look inwards and think, well, okay, this is probably what I need to do. I need to make a change here. So what I'm saying is you stop living in fight and flight. You stop living in emergency. It's addictive.
Yeah.
You know?
So a typical client then, you know, what do they look like? Are they mainly sports persons or people, or is it more?
I attract lots of different types of people. Young people, older people. Like just yesterday, you know, I had a phone call from someone that wants to get control of their drinking habits. The subconscious is no slave to time. So some issues people have since they were young, and those issues, unless they're resolved, they'll keep on holding you back. They'll keep on rearing their head because they're stopping you from moving forward. So, you know, anybody can have an issue, but I might not necessarily be dealing with, you know, a 45-year-old person in front of me. I could be dealing with a 45-year-old person in front of me with anxiety issues that are connected to something that happened before the age of 7. So I'm actually dealing with that 7-year-old.
Yeah.
You know?
What's your take on healthy and unhealthy, not addictions, but you know, I guess it's only harmful if it's causing you or other people harm. I'm thinking, I've got a bit of an obsession with gadgets and just buying toys and buying stuff that I don't necessarily need. It's not doing anyone harm. I can afford it. You know, it's like, but yeah, there are times when I just think, oh, do I really need that? And get a bit of a reality check. But I wouldn't say that's an unhealthy obsession. But it is something I wouldn't mind doing something about, at least. But
interesting question.
Do you have people come to you with things that you don't necessarily think, well, actually, this doesn't really need fixing?
Well, I always say that anything equals anything equals anything. So with the old, you know, the mind, whatever you think about the mind, the subconscious, unconscious, monkey brain, whatever they're going to call it this week, it works in black and white, you know, that part. I mean, Sigmund Freud?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sigmund Freud used to say you have a conscious mind, you have a subconscious mind, and then you have an unconscious mind. But that's the mind. In terms of the brain, he said you have like an id, which is the selfish part of your brain, childish part, and then you have an ego, and then you have a superego, and superego is like, you know, your compass in life. So addictions come about for all kinds of reasons, and they normally serve some sort of positive need. So you may have heard of a guy called Gabor Mate.
No.
I could check him out. He's very interesting. He's a psychiatrist, and he works in Canada with people with drug addictions. And he made the suggestion that a lot of addictions come about before the age of 7. You know, Napoleon said men are governed by their toys. And he was one of the greatest, you know, soldiers that ever lived.
I can categorically put my addiction to just technology in general back to probably when I was 7, because I was working, believe it or not, for my dad's Saturday job, and I wanted this Sony Walkman which was just the bollocks. It was so cool. It was and you know, it was very expensive at the time. And he said, well, look, the only way you can afford that is to work for me for, you know, whatever it was, 10 months, you know, without pay. And I said, yeah, go for it. So, and I brought this shiny object, you know, and yeah, sure enough, I had to work for it.
But that's amazing, you know. He taught you some great values.
It did, yeah, absolutely. And it taught me about finance and borrowing as well, because you know, I remember thinking, shit, I'm working for nothing here, you know, for months after it.
But addiction, you know, I mean, it's a funny thing. The question I would ask you is, do you believe that it's an addiction?
No, not at all. No, I'm sort of saying that in jest, really, but certainly my wife would agree that I am addicted to buying shit that I don't need.
Yeah. Because Gabor Mate, he had an addiction to, well, his wife told him that he had an addiction to buying classical CDs that he never listened to. And he would just spend, you know, thousands of pounds on these CDs. So in his defence, he said, you know, anybody can be addicted to anything. He believed that was an addiction. I would say the only thing that matters is what you believe. If you believe that's an addiction, or perhaps it is. If it's not, then it's not.
Yeah. And obviously there are far more harmful things that you can be addicted to. Do you believe there's like addictive personalities?
Wow.
So, you know, there are those people who are more addictive to
That's
things.
a really good question there.
Well, I know certain people that are, you know, maybe they like gambling, and, you know, they like that sort of thrill of winning and stuff like that. Equally, I know people who drink too much, smoke too much, you know. But I've never really said, oh, you know, they're that addictive personality. But you do hear that term, addictive personality, quite a bit.
I hear it a lot. I mean, this is what I think, right? If you identify as having an addictive personality, well, then you're kind of going against yourself with your word. You're committing the ultimate sin, because you're identifying, which in terms of like levels of change, being change your environment at the bottom and strong mission identity at the top, you're identifying as having addictive personality. So you're going against yourself. You're committing like one of the worst sins ever. There would be people that would disagree with that. Of course, you know, there's people that are more predisposed to having an addiction, which is ultimately a behavior. So it's something that you can change easily, rather than identifying with having addictive personality. So if you see it as a behaviour, then you're more likely to change it. Yeah.
I remember once I'd done a brief, well, it was just a sort of conference. It was on day trading and trading.
Nice.
And the guy, quite a well-known guy, said to me at the end, he said, no, I know you, Danny, you're too impulsive to do this, so I'm not going to train you. And I was like, what?
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, but it did make me sit up and notice, because I thought, shit, am I really that? Yeah, I am impulsive, very impulsive, but to the point where, you know, I would not be good at that thing. You know, it did really like sit home. You know, made me take note.
I mean, it's interesting because you said, you know, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you're not that impulsive, but then you said, but then.
Yeah, well, I am impulsive when it comes to buying stuff, or boats, or camper vans, or cars, or toys. But yeah, certainly not in business or in other walks of life. I don't think I am. In you know, when serious stuff is in front of me, no, I don't think I am.
Yeah. Interesting. But at the end of the day, if you identify, you know, as being impulsive in any way, shape, or form, you've made that agreement. You've made that a belief. You can change that by disagreeing.
I think, you know, they're always informed decisions. I like to think I just make decisions very quickly, based on, I do the maths quickly in my head to justify something. A prime example. I don't know, 2014, 2015, I bought a Tesla.
Nice.
Not many about at the time. I think there's only me and a friend of mine got one in Norfolk, and it was man maths, very quick man maths in your head. I can justify this because I was putting 300 quid a month in my car.
Yeah.
So straight away, I'll just use that 300 quid to add on to the finance, and straight away I could afford one. So it's just quick decisions in your head. can justify anything, can't they?
That's better though, isn't it? Saying that I make quick decisions in my head than saying that I'm impulsive.
Yeah, exactly.
Because one's a positive, one's a negative.
But from outward appearance, it would look impulsive, I think. Yeah.
So, do you agree with what you said?
I do, yeah. I'll stand by it. Yeah.
That's true for you then.
Yeah. Seem like I'm in the chair here now, so I'm going to stop talking. But
sorry.
Tell us more. More about.
My girlfriend tells me off for doing that.
No, it's me divulging information.
I didn't even realise I'm doing it.
No.
Sorry.
So yeah, tell me more about examples where you can help people. Let's talk some more about the vaping thing, for example. I can imagine that being quite a popular one if that's a recent incarnation of your.
God, yeah,
brand. It's going to be good.
It all started off actually with my own personal change. Not for smoking. I did a course, a stop smoking course. Us hypnotherapists, we like to go around the houses doing these courses, and this course was amazing, absolutely amazing. It wasn't just a stop smoking course; it was a full upgrade of my mental software, my mental and emotional software. So not only did it give me more control over my thoughts, my beliefs, my attitudes, my emotions, gave me control over my behaviours, which was really empowering, and it changed my life. And it was a stop smoking course.
Really?
It was just a stop smoking course. So after internalising that information, then I was able to help people stop smoking. And at the time I was living in Spain on the Costa del Golf. And one of my jobs was travelling up and down the Costa del Sol, helping people to stop smoking. And I used to go to Gibraltar. I helped some of the soldiers of the Gibraltar regiment stop smoking. I'm laughing because I was just remembering that you pay less tax in Gibraltar. Cigarettes are really cheap over there.
Of course, yeah.
So you can't use the how much money are you going to save.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
And it was a really interesting experience being in Gib and helping soldiers stop smoking. And then one day I got a call from a lady in Porto Banús, which is quite a posh part of Marbella if you've ever been there. And she said,
too many times, unfortunately.
Lucky you. Lucky you. Such a lovely place.
Yeah.
And she said, I'd like to stop smoking. No problem. I'll come and see you. The property itself was amazing. It was like a beachfront property, Porto Banús. Knocked on the door. Butler answered the door, so to speak. Marble floors. Come in, take your shoes off, that kind of thing. This view was spectacular. That was just amazing. I was just like, wow, And I spoke to the lady. She was getting on in years, but a lovely lady, very elegant. And she said to me, can you help me? I said, yeah. And I said, before I do, I have to ask you, how on earth, I hope you don't mind me being rude, how on earth can you afford a place like this? Because I want one so bad. So she said, my husband, who's not alive anymore, he invented a board game. And every year, I still get the royalties from the board game. And that board game was Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, yeah, I remember the story, yeah.
So helped her stop smoking. She was very grateful. And that's kind of how it went with the stop smoking for a while. And then eventually the vapes came out and people started vaping even more and more. And I didn't have a problem with it initially because I've always been of the mindset, to hate the smoke but love the smoker, And with vaping, it's very different because, it smells so sweet and,
Well, most people see them as, if they weren't doing that, they'd be smoking. So it's the better of two evils, isn't it?
Perhaps, yeah. Although in Australia, it's considered to be worse than smoking. Really? It's banned in Australia.
I know it's banned in, forget where I was the other day, a few months back, I think it was Budapest. I managed to drop my e-cig on the floor and smash it. And I was like, that's all right, I'll go and buy one. But it went in about 6 shops. Oh, no. Didn't sell them anywhere.
What did you do?
Well, funnily enough, there was guys out on the street sort of opening the coat and, "You want a vape?"
Is that right?
And I'd seen loads of them everywhere before I dropped it. And I thought, why would I buy one off you when I could just walk in a shop? And then I smashed it. And then I was going to all these shops and I didn't see one selling them again.
That's sort of law, isn't it?
Yeah.
But did you get anxious?
Oh, Christ, yeah. I've only got to drive, I could be 20 miles away from the house and I realised I left it at home and I'll turn around and come back.
That's really interesting.
Or find a shop nearby.
That's very interesting.
I'm so hooked.
So would you say that it's more of a nicotine addiction or a psychological addiction?
I think there's a bit of both because I've tried no nicotine in and I'm still sucking on it like it's no tomorrow. More so because there's no nicotine in it, so I'm still doing it to try and get something out of it. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of both. But I've always been on ultra low nicotine, so it's not like the nicotine is the big thing. It's more the psychological thing of just doing it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But no, I literally, it's phone, vape, car key, 3 things, as long as they're on me, I'm a happy man,
Yeah, happy man, no anxiety.
Yeah, but God, if one of those things is missing, it's,
Yeah, well, I can relate to that. And I treat stopping vaping exactly the same way as what I would treat stopping smoking. In actual fact, I would say that stopping vaping is actually more difficult than stopping smoking.
I agree, because you can do it anywhere. You can do it in your office, do it at home, do it on the sofa, do it in bed.
And people also minimise it and say, it's a better option than smoking, it's less harmful. The jury's still out. Just like smoking was when it first came out all those years ago. In fact, doctors used to recommend smoking. It was very good for you.
I should say, I actually gave up smoking originally 16 years ago with hypnosis.
Oh, really?
So just listening to audiobooks and I think it was sleep hypnosis, to give up then. And I gave up quite easily. So
Same here. I stopped smoking when I was about 18. And I don't know if you remember in W.H. Smith's John Menzies used to be cassettes, like self-hypnosis cassettes.
Definitely, yeah.
And there was a guy called Glenn Harold. Yeah. And Glenn Harold, at the time, he was the man that did the self-hypnosis, think positive, sleep better, stop smoking, so on and so forth. And I would religiously listen to those cassettes over and over and over again until I could hear his voice in my head, even when I wasn't listening. And I stopped smoking. I think the truth is, when you're ready to stop, you just stop. That's how you do it. That's how I did it, although I did replace it with a positive habit, which was running, so that can help as well. And even to this day, I still hear his voice in my head. For example, the suggestion, I find tobacco smoke repulsive, is still one of those original suggestions that's still in my unconscious monkey mind, whatever you want to call it, this week. So that's how suggestion works. Yeah. And you're aware of the suggestion, and all of a sudden I don't really like sitting near people that are smoking. So it sort of alters your behaviour, that suggestion. It's quite interesting. And that's how I stopped as well, cassettes. Many years later, many decades later, when I moved to Spain, I found out he was also living in Spain as well.
Oh, wow.
So I messaged him on Facebook. I said, listen, Glenn, can I treat you to a meal, please, to say thank you for helping me stop smoking? He said, yeah. So he's vegan, each to their own. Yeah. So I treated him to a vegan meal. It was a nice moment for me, because I'd listened to his cassettes for years. So it was, and I eventually got muscled out by Paul McKenna.
Yeah. TV, yeah. I guess that's where that started.
The vaping side of things, it's more difficult because, as I say, we all sort of believe it's better than smoking. Not everybody. That said, if someone's ready to stop, then they just need a little push in the right direction and they'll stop. It's mind over matter.
What do you think's involved? So, I came to you today and said, look, that's it, I'm done. I want to. I don't want to vape anymore. And roughly how many sessions are we talking, and how quickly can you cure me?
Yeah, sure. So I would break it down. We could break it down into 6 sessions or just do 1 session, 5-6 hours. So it's a bit of a lengthy session, but you've got to remember it's a full upgrade of your mental software, your mental and emotional software. So not only are you going to have more control over the vaping. You're going to have more control over drinking, eating, your thoughts.
Don't you stop me drinking, will you?
Certainly won't.
I enjoy that.
Can't make you do anything that goes against your morals or your values.
But no, I'm a massive believer in hypnosis. I stopped smoking, but also, I'd done the same. I found myself redundant 17 years ago. Didn't know what I was going to do, and yet all I done for 6 months was, I think, completely rewired my brain with the help of the positive thinking audiobooks and hypnosis and all that jazz. I'd literally listened to everything I could get my hands on.
Yeah,
And it did transform me, definitely for the better. And to this day, I am just completely wired positively. I walk away, I shut down as soon as I hear any negativity or any, and my wife infuriates her, because I am almost too positive all the time, and it's the only thing I can put it down to is that period of time, because it just rewired me, and I think it's for the better. But as my wife says, you can't always be so bloody positive. There's always got to be a time where you sit and discuss the bad side of life and stuff like that. But I just don't want to hear it a lot of the time, and it's built into me subconsciously that I don't want to hear it. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want. So
very interesting.
Call it blocking out or whatever you like, but.
That's very interesting.
I enjoy life.
I mean, I've done a little bit of research. You enjoy life, and I know that you're a very process-orientated person, and having those positive processes is probably what makes you as successful as you are.
Well, I haven't made it yet, but it's I just like to think if I had no money, if I did, I'd still be bouncing off walls. You'd
still be bouncing off walls.
Yeah, I'd still be fine.
You'd still be fine. Good.
And I've been at low points as well, and there's always an answer. There's always something out there. It's just about mindset, isn't it?
It is about mindset. And, I think that from, what I know about you, you're a very strong-minded person, and that you're a good learner. Do you read many books?
Listen to audiobooks.
You listen to audiobooks. You probably absorb a lot of what you listen to. You'd make a very good teacher, I would imagine. And you're very clever, so you like to go deep.
I remember this. Don't you do like? I remember this. Don't you do like just from speaking to someone, you can very quickly work them out and.
Well, it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah.
So you heard of Pythagoras?
Yeah.
From maths in school.
Yeah.
He was about around 500 years before Jesus Christ, and ancient Greece, went to ancient school of Egypt, studied and all this, esoteric stuff. So I'm going to get a little bit woo-woo here for the listeners, just to pre-warn you. So he came up with a lot of the theories used in mathematics today, but he also came up with a system called numerology. So he believed that in teleology, the universe will have a purpose, the universe has a purpose, everybody has a purpose in life. And through numbers, because numbers have a vibration, a certain geometry to them, you can find out what your purpose is in life by adding up your date of birth, which you believe. So It's a bit of fun, bit of an icebreaker, to use at a networking meeting, for example. And don't take it too seriously. I like to throw it away as much as I can, but it always makes me laugh because it sort of keeps coming back and just, having that kick that makes me think, oh, there's something in it. So when we did your numbers, so the numbers from 1 to 9 will have a certain vibration, which manifests in a physical frequency, from confidence to creativity, balance and cooperation, expression and sensitivity, strength and stability. So I've just mentioned 2 of your numbers just there. So 3 is all about emotional expression and sensitivity. So you like a laugh, you like a sing-song, you're moved by emotion. If you've got something to say, you'll say it. You'll feel better when you've got it off your chest. The 4 is all about strength and stability. So family's important to you. You don't like liars. You make a great teacher. And to achieve what you want in life, you have to follow a step-by-step process. When you add those 2 numbers together, you get your primary purpose in life. So all of these purposes are like mountains to climb. And there's certain challenges and hurdles that you've got to overcome in order to get to the top of the mountain, to manifest it in its true potential, either in the positive or negative, because you can live your life in the positive or the negative, right? Your primary number is a 7, and 7's all about trust and openness. Trust is super important to you. You get strong intuitions about people, whether you can trust them or not. It's one of the most intelligent numbers out of all 9 numbers. You've got kind of X-ray vision. So if you're having a conversation with someone, you'll be able to hear and see another conversation going on at the same time. So you can read between the lines, which is a very valuable tool. Maybe you might be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, I'm not too sure.
No.
That's good.
No,
that's good. But which means that you're working it in the positive. So trust, I'm assuming, is important to you. And there's certain, without getting too woo-woo, spiritual laws or habits that you can use to manifest your life in the positive. So, for example, the habit of honesty is a very important tool, you know, because if you can't be honest with other people unless you've been honest with yourself first. And in terms of integrity, it means honesty means, in terms of integrity, acting in line with higher laws and spiritual values. So, for example, the law of flexibility is a wonderful, the habit of flexibility is a wonderful habit for 4s, because sometimes we get so locked into our processes that it almost becomes like a demand that we must finish this process, where if you apply the habit of flexibility, you can say, okay, well, we can come back to that process later. And also the habit of process. So in order to achieve any kind of success in life, you've got to follow a step-by-step process. So applying that to your life can help you manifest your goals and dreams and values. And in terms of trust, the habit of expectations is really important, because if you believe that you're going to be betrayed, then you probably will be. If you expect that you're not going to be, betrayed, then you won't. And last but not least, faith. You know, the habit of faith. And I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about the power of your word, your will. You know, whatever you put your word into, you're putting the full power of your faith into. So if you identify as being an impulsive person, you're putting your faith into that identity. If you withdraw that agreement, that belief, then you withdraw that power. So you take back your faith. So that's what I mean by the habit of faith. Yeah. So yeah, a bit of woo. But you've got to have a good balance, I think, in life with the left and the right brain. Left is for logic, right is for emotion. You've got the bit in the middle called the corpus callosum. And whenever there's a conflict between the left and the right brain, the emotional brain, always wins. So, you know, it doesn't matter how strong you are logically, you know, the emotional brain pretty much rules. So it's good to learn about emotions.
It is fascinating, and I think you're almost preaching to the converted, because I kind of get all this stuff, but you know, for our listeners, if you've not explored this route of your brain and mindset, then do reach out to someone like Matthew here, because you can learn a lot from it.
It's a bit of fun, you know. It's just knowledge.
It's a powerful tool, isn't it, that we all need to use and use properly. I want to touch on your health side now, and obviously you touched on being vegan. Where did that journey begin? And there's a connection with that and the marathon as well, or ultra marathon.
Yeah. So I'll give you the short version. So I was living in Spain, and I was experimenting with a ketogenic diet. And a friend of mine who lived a few doors away, he came round, told me he was going to embark on an ultra marathon, and he was going to do it on a plant-based diet. And I'm a runner. I've always been a runner. I identify as being a runner, but I've never done an ultra marathon.
Is that a gender? You identify as being a runner. Perhaps that should be one of the new genders.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the dream of the times, isn't it? You know, this is a conversation that we're all talking about identities and one thing and another. Yeah, sure, I definitely identify as being a runner, although in all honesty, it's just a behavior. So yeah, I like that. So you expanded my map there for a second.
There you go, yeah.
I don't have to identify as being anybody or anything. And in actual fact, that identity has caused me a lot of trouble. Yeah, that identifying as being an ultra marathon runner caused me a lot of trouble in terms of my health.
Really?
So David Goggins, that's I've just mentioned him. I'm sure some of our listeners have heard of David Goggins. Have you heard of David Goggins?
No,
oh, okay.
Is that only people who identify as being runners would have heard of him? Or?
Quite possibly. He's a bit of a household name amongst a lot of YouTubers and people that follow the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff like that. So David Goggins, he was a Navy SEAL, and he had a bad upbringing, and he became a Navy SEAL. That straightened him out, and then he got into ultra marathon running, and he brought out a book at the time. I was a follower of London Real, which is a podcast with Brian Rose. Have you heard of that? No, it's no problem at all. It got banned, actually. It got banned from YouTube during COVID because it all went a bit sort of like, deep and meaningful into what was going on behind the scenes of COVID-19. So YouTube just like got rid of it. And he had David Goggins on as a guest, and I liked the podcast, and I thought, yeah, Goggins, he's an ultra marathon runner, like a bit of that. So I watched some videos on ultra marathon running, and a lot of the time these people were just walking, and I'm just like, how hard can it be? You get to walk. So it's not really something I would like associate with running. So anyway,
you were already running, though, were you?
I was already running around the mountains. I was, I just enjoyed trail running. It's just a nice behaviour, nice hobby, and I love it. It's a passion. And London Real did a documentary about an Ironman. That's what it was. So he did an Ironman on a plant-based diet. And I thought, that's cool. So I said to my friend, yeah, I'd like to do this ultra marathon. I'd like to do it on a plant-based diet as well. And there's different classes of ultra marathon. So I didn't know this at the time, but you've got beginner, which is like a minimum of 32 miles. So I'd never even ran a marathon at this point. So 32 miles is like the beginner entry level. Then you've got intermediate, and then you've got advanced, and then you've got brutal. So this ultra marathon that my friend was doing was a brutal one. So I signed up to it, got training, probably running about 50 miles a week over a period of 6 months. And I smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. We all smashed it. No one had completed the race in 4 years. So it was over the largest mountain in the Costa del Sol, not once, but twice the size of Scafell Pike. And the weather was very good that day, which was fortunate, which is why so many people finished it. That day there was a cut-off of 13 hours, and I completed it in 12 hours and 35 minutes. So 25 minutes left to complete it. One of the most hardest things that I've ever done in my life, apart from army training when I was a youngster. And I definitely used self-hypnosis while I was running to get me through to the finish line, and the spirit of David Goggins to sort of pull me on when things got tough as well. I got a bit obsessed, I would say, by the whole ultra marathon running thing. And the reason why people walk is you can't run. Some people can, but it's, for the average runner, it's impossible to run a whole ultra marathon. You have to walk sometimes, because otherwise you'll die. And I very nearly did die. A few weeks after, I was training out in the mountains. So I'm just going to give you some information now, but I'm just going to warn the listeners that it's a bit gross what I'm about to tell you. So I was in the mountains afterwards, and because of the stress of the ultra marathon, it's very hot. I was a little bit dehydrated, probably didn't have the right food, and my body blew up. I went for a pee-pee in the bushes, and I felt something pop, and next thing you know, blood's everywhere.
Shit.
Yeah, some serious stuff. I was I had a phone. I was out in the campo, which is Spanish for country, in the mountains. No doctors, no hospitals anywhere. Had my phone, a little bit of battery left. Called my girlfriend at the time in England. Said, I think I'm think I'm dying. I told her what had happened. And she said, get to hospital, get to the doctors. So I ran back. I ran all the way back. There was a fiesta at like a party at the bottom of the mountains. And yeah, I was in a bad way, and everybody was partying, and I was just thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And I didn't die, obviously. I'm still here. I got back home, and I was okay. I survived. And it was this David Goggins, I'm not blaming, okay, I'm going to blame it a little bit. It was this David Goggins mindset of just like, just push your body to the extreme. The mindset that I had was very similar. I adopted it. And it was that mindset that got me into trouble, because your mind is so strong that if you put your mind to something,
even though your body's telling you to sort it out.
That's right. Yeah. So I had to learn some very humbling lessons, from that experience. So
I guess that in itself can be an addiction, and an unhealthy one if you
precisely. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on running since that day? Obviously, there's nothing wrong in running, but it's just moderation.
I had to disidentify. I still identify as a runner, but not an ultra marathon runner anymore. It's a behaviour. It's something that I do. Still love running, but I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and sometimes I can be a little bit extreme in my ways. And it's knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and that only comes through having these experiences in life, and then taking the wisdom and the lessons from those experiences and integrating them into your persona, so that they don't happen again. I'm here to live, and I'm here to learn.
What's your view on running, long term, over many years, and the damage to joints, bones, that sort of thing?
Well, that's
my excuse for not running.
That's your excuse for not running. Yeah. Again, it's a belief. I know a lot of people that still run to this day, in their 60s and 70s, and they've been long distance runners, and providing you keep yourself in good nick, and you have the correct nutrition, and how to keep your body supple and stretch and do yoga, then I think you're fine. Sometimes when you stop doing these things, that's when it all starts to creep in. So Neil Featherby. Do you know Neil Featherby? Okay.
You're going to say loads of names I don't know.
No. He's he owns Sportlink in Norwich, so a lot of runners go there. He used to run for England, and he's forgive me, Neil, if you're listening. I can't remember exactly how old you are. I'm gonna say in your 50s. He's ran every single day for many decades. There's never been one day that he's not stopped running. So he loves it. It keeps him healthy.
I'm no runner, but I at school I was always, the only sport I was good at was long distance, and I don't know, probably about 15 years ago, someone offered me a place in the London Marathon a few weeks before it was going for. So I just said, I didn't even own a pair of trainers. Like, before I answered yes or no, I went out for a run that evening, and the only pair of shoes I had was leather shoes. So I went out for a run in those, and I think I'd done about 8 miles and came back all right. So I just said, yes, I'll do it. And considering no training whatsoever, I'd done a 4.5 hour. And that was it, tick that box brilliant. Now. Don't want to run anymore. That's done now.
But that's a good time, for someone that didn't do any training.
Nearly died though, no toenails left and everything else. But it was continuous story. Mind over matter, or mind over body, as you say it. And that's what got me round. But
you can look back on that as a proud moment. Yeah, that's right. I did the Peddars Way ultra marathon with a friend of mine who used to be a client as well, Sam Sexton, former British and heavyweight Commonwealth champion, who lives in Norwich. And at the time I had a really bad Achilles heel, and I really wanted to do this ultra marathon. I always wanted to do it. Ever since I come back to the UK, I wanted to do it. It's 52 miles from Nettlesham Heath all up to Hunstanton, and the time came to do it. I didn't have a lot of training, neither did Sam. I think we ran like 10 miles a couple of times a week, which is not enough for an ultra marathon, and we smashed it. I thought after 13 miles that I wasn't going to be able to continue because my Achilles heel was so bad, and I loosened up my shoe, and added a band-aid, and we smashed it. Although we did get to I think it was the 46th mile, and we met our crew member, Jen, who turned up with her car just to get some supplies, and we left our bags with her, which had the tracking chip. And then we cracked on 2 miles, another 2 miles, only to realise that we could be disqualified for not having a tracking chip.
Okay.
So she couldn't come and find us. So we had to run back 2 miles and then an additional 2 miles on top of that.
Yeah.
So that was over 50 in the end. And we did that. And I was in a lot of pain for a few days after that.
I bet.
But ... ellipsis. I can say that I've done it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to do it again, but I can say that I've done it. So is that my addiction? That's the question.
There you go.
And you know what
Would you like to find a I can recommend a really good hypnotist to get you out of that addiction.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Send it my way, or her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you can talk to yourself or hypnosis.
An
Hypnotise
addiction.
yourself.
Self-hypnosis. Yeah. That's a very good tool. I use it more and more now.
I guess it's a form of meditation, isn't it?
It's a form of meditation. Yeah. So the way I would describe hypnosis is a state of belief, focus, and expectation. Has nothing to do with having your eyes closed either. A lot of people think you've got to have your eyes closed. Not true at all. It's simply just a state of focus, belief, and expectation.
And also your subconscious can listen to stuff as well, even if you're focused on something else.
That's right. I say your unconscious is the mind that's always conscious.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. So how can we help you? Who in our listeners do you think are really good clients for you, for want of a better word?
Yeah, thank you.
Obviously, we touched on the vaping. I assume you can do some sort of businessy type help. Sure. Positive mindset is a good one for business, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not just athletes, not just people who want to vape.
Yeah, so Combat Hypnosis is kind of an umbrella term. So I help anybody from weight loss, stop smoking, personal development, coaching, sports motivation, sales or business acceleration. I've done a lot of work with professional fighters over the years, which is where the name probably sort of came from. And if you're looking to improve your sales, or if you're looking to make your business stronger, then what I do is I apply that mindset that I've developed through many years of working with professional fighters to the business arena, whether that's, CEOs, shareholders. Everybody needs a bit of that mindset. That said, I'll work with anybody that needs help improving their life. Whatever you're going through, anxiety, any mental health conditions, any fights of life, anything that's subjective that's getting you down, any of those feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, sensations, beliefs that are holding you back. But beliefs is a bit of a funny one for a lot of people because it's invisible. Okay, we're always focusing on behaviors and how we can change behaviors. In actual fact, if you want to make a permanent change, apart from the identity thing that we talked about earlier, is changing those beliefs. That's so powerful. And I used to think that was BS. And it literally is BS, belief systems, because anything that's holding you back in life, any kind of belief, memory, experience, emotional event that's holding you back is probably invisible. And it exists in front of you in something we call the proprioceptive grid. So by becoming consciously aware of what those beliefs are, because obviously they're occluded, you can then change them. And by simply changing those beliefs, you can unlock whatever it is that you want to achieve in life. When I first started out on my career as a hypnotherapist, I had a bit of trauma. My girlfriend at the time, I was 27, and my girlfriend at the time, Jackie, she had epilepsy, and it came about because of a brain tumour. And I didn't know a lot about it back then, and she was having seizures quite a lot, what was called grand mal seizures, where you out cold, foaming at the mouth. She was taking pills to control it, but they weren't always working for whatever reason. And we didn't live together, but one day I got a phone call from her boss to say that she hadn't turned up for work. Is everything all right? You know, when you get that sort of moment where, you know, your heart just sinks and you just intuitively know that something bad perhaps has happened. So I went round there, and the lights were on, but it seemed that no one was home. And I just had this bad feeling that something had happened. And that's basically what happened. She had a bath, and she'd had a fit in the bath and drowned.
Shit.
Yeah, and you know, I blamed myself for many years because I didn't know any better, for not being there, you know, for not supporting her properly. I went against myself with my own words. Feelings of guilt and remorse, PTSD type 2, essentially. And it took me a long time to get over that. It was an accident, you know, it's just one of those things. She couldn't, you know, no one could have predicted it. But I didn't have any closure. And it was around that time that I wanted to change my life. And I was flicking through the EDP one day, and I was listening to Paul McKenna's CDs. I was desperate to change my life. And I saw this advert in the EDP, and it said, "Do you want to change your life?" I thought, well, it's divine intervention. And I called the number, and it was a chrysalis course at the UEA, hypnotherapy course. And for years, I'd been a hypnotherapist, but I'd never been able to do anything with a qualification because something was holding me back. And for whatever reason, I didn't feel worthy enough or good enough to help people change their life because, you know, I was dealing with my own issues, and the subconscious mind is no slave to time. And it's bizarre how beliefs work, you know, because I believed that, you know, I should have done more, I had all these feelings. That belief held me back for so many decades. Yeah. And it was only later on that I became more experienced and more skilled as a hypnotherapist. I was able to identify that belief that was still in front of me, that was holding me back. Remove the emotion that was holding that in place like cement, and take the lessons from that belief, reframe that belief into something that meant that it wasn't going against me anymore, to something that was empowering me. And then all of a sudden my hypnotherapy business took off.
So you hadn't really found a way to monetize it, I guess, or to make a business out of your knowledge, I guess. But gave you
I wasn't worthy. In my mind, I wasn't worthy to be a hypnotherapist because I had all these issues of guilt and remorse holding me back. And it wasn't my fault.
No, not at all.
I wasn't.
Not at all.
But I didn't know about going against yourself with your word, you know. And we all do it, you know. We all do it every single day. That little voice on your shoulder, you know, that whispering to you, telling you must do this, you must do that. That little shoulder devil, and you've got a shoulder angel the other side, you know. And it's tempting to listen, you know, unless that I call it AI, you know, because AI has been around for you know hundreds of years. That inner voice, you know, we just create technology that mimics the technology of the mind. You know, you have your reticular activating system. That's algorithms. You know, so what you focus on, you attract more of. You know, like you see a car that you like, a Tesla, for example, you start seeing that car everywhere. That's not like woo-woo, law of attraction. That's just your cluster of neurons in your brain spotlighting that thing that you want and making it come to you. You know, because we're being bombarded with billions and billions of pieces of information at any 1 second, but your conscious mind can only filters that information down to about 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information at any 1 second. If that Tesla is part of that 7 plus or minus 2, that's what you're going to see. You see, so we have algorithms, and then AI is simply the voice inside your head. You know, we all have one. And if that voice is helpful, then you agree with it. If it's not helpful, then you disagree with it, you know.
What is your take on, you've obviously got a good understanding of the mind and mental health and everything, but what is your understanding of the damage that social media, AI, the world we live in is doing to our brains? Have you got thought behind that? Have you, do you think it is screwing everyone's head up, or do you think it's just progress?
Yeah, I think it was Monica Lewinsky that said that the internet is a superhighway for the id. So to reference back to Freud, you've got all these keyboard warriors that hide behind these profiles, and they don't care what they say. You go on Twitter and so on and so forth. It's a bit of a problem, because a lot of people aren't being held responsible for what they say. But then you can say, well, we have freedom of speech and that needs to be defended. Perhaps you could say that's an ideal. And as we've just seen in America, that can be an ideal that you could be shot for now, So it's scary, what's going on. And to be honest with you, the answer is it's a race, I think, between catastrophe and education. So the jury's still out. And AI is a bit scary, let's be honest.
Yeah.
However, I think it was Bridget Bryce that said this morning at a network meeting that you get what you focus on. If you focus on fear, that's what you attract. So get positive, focus on the positive, be the change that you want to see in the world. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does a bit. I mean, it's one thing that's always, I don't really read social media. I post occasionally, but I'm not one of, because I know from experience, once I start, that's it, straight away, 30 minutes, an hour's gone.
Wow.
So I deliberately don't start looking. But then every time there's some catastrophe, and I'm not talking me personally, I'm talking about, every time you see a big story in the newspaper, you can always attribute it to social media of some, and I know people like to blame social media, but honestly, does seem to be the cause in many, many occasions. But is it because I'm looking specifically for it, or I don't know, but it's it's certainly not a great outlook I think we as a humanity have for us. Unless something changes, it just seems to be getting worse and worse, and the knock-on effect of that is of course mental health and the increase of that. So it's a pretty gloomy outlook, but interesting to hear your feedback on it. But Matthew, I'm going to call it a day there. That has been absolutely fascinating, and I implore anyone who's got any interest in this whatsoever, or any thoughts whether this can help them, to please reach out to me or Matthew, and I'll put you in touch with Matthew, because I know firsthand that it can help a lot of issues in people's lives, and I hope it's going to help me quit vaping as well. So watch this space.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in, mate. Brilliant.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The Norfolk Business Show with Danny Snelling. Sponsored by MT Comms.
Just a quick word from me. Absolutely thrilled with the response and feedback we've had so far. It really has been so positive. We're going to continue with it. I do just need to ask you all, please, just to take that 1 second to click the subscribe, like, follow button, share them. Just do something for me, because we're never going to be monetized. We're not going to make money from this show, and that's not our intention. We're a local Norfolk show, so we're never going to get those worldwide viewing figures that need to monetize channels. It's not about that. We genuinely are just trying to give back to the business community in Norfolk. So please do that favour for me. It will just increase the visibility of those guests we have on the show, so they get more impact from it. And who knows, if you're a future guest, then you'll get the benefit of that as well. So please do that for me. Obviously, we're sponsoring it from MT Comms. Please do keep us in mind if we can help with anything IT related, Office 365 support, cybersecurity, 365, that sort of thing. We also do telecoms, mobile, CCTV. There's loads of stuff we do. Just reach out to us and ask us if you can help with anything. Thank you, guys.